FYE 19 estimates and a 4% increase in FYE 2021 through 2024 revenues. The funding sources for the Fund 50 consist of the capital sales tax, which is 7/10 of the 2nd cent sales tax. We have the general obligation bonds, interest income, grants, and private development funds. The historic adopted budgets by purpose, we have FYE 13 through FYE 18. The guideline is 27% for capital outlay, 25% for street maintenance, 36% for other projects and debt service, 5% for the existing facilities maintenance, and a 7% general contingency. For the FYE 18, capital outlay was at 27%, street maintenance was at 19.6%. The other projects and debt service came in at 34.8%. Existing facilities maintenance was 3.6%, and the general contingency was at 7%. And then we had 8% available for new projects. Significant Capital Fund 50 project.
Jane, before you go on, I just want to make a comment about the existing facility maintenance. I mean, we took out a number of things in the past. And I'm really concerned that we just keep going down on that. If you don't take care of your facilities, they get worse and worse, and then it costs you more. So I have a concern about that and would like to hear. I know a lot of things have been put off just in this building, so I'd like to see some.
This 5% category is for kind of the smaller projects. When I say smaller, anywhere from 50,000 and lower, or maybe even up to 75,000 or lower. The larger facility projects, like the major heat and air replacements, roofs, those types of things, are not part of this 5%. We just basically fight for the same money that the road projects are fighting for that.
Okay. Well, I think there's some things that need to be done. And I think maybe we should look at those this time.
City manager and Brenda, it's right there.
I'll go ahead and add, we do have some funding in this year's budget to do some of the things in this facility. We're currently kind of holding in a holding pattern on that while we're doing the review of the entire complex. And we're keeping that money set aside so that once we start that, we can use that for part of what we're going to do.
Okay, that's good.
Jane, sorry. That's okay. Do you want me to go back to the, is that best?
Please.
Okay.
Can you explain a little bit of what happened in FYE 17? A lot of things got shifted around. We had, it'd be 17. We went under other projects and debt service. We jumped from 29.5% up to 40%. Haven't gone back down close to that level since.
Anything unusual. That was the year that we put money in for extra money for fleet replacement, and that probably shows up in the capital outlay category. But other than that, I really can't speak to the other projects category.
Okay, I was just curious.
Moving on, the significant capital fund 50 projects that were closed in FYE 19. These projects were closed between July 1, 2018 and February 2nd of 2019, which closed is work is complete and all bills have been paid. The remodel for the treasury area over in the other building. We had the GIS mapping update from FYE 17, Burlington Drive drainage improvements, the St. James Park Section 5 stormwater pipe relining. We had the fleet window replacement, Sutton Wilderness Trail and parking improvements, the Little Axe Community and Sports Complex improvements, as well as the Fire Station 4 driveway replacement. Additional Fund 50 projects that were completed, so they were all the bills have not been paid, but the work is finished. For the IT department, we had the city data storage coming in at 1.4 million, and then we had the police department. The animal welfare fencing was 45,000. Continuing on, we have completed FYE 19 for Public Works Department. Just to highlight a couple of them, we had the Main Street Enhancement Streetscape from Park Drive to James Garner at $3.8 million. The 12th Avenue Southeast Bond Project, which was State Highway 9 to Cedar Lane, coming in at $2.7 million. We had the 36th Avenue Northwest Havenbrook Street signal and intersection widening, $1.2 million. The Lindsay Street Bond Project from 24th Avenue Southwest to Berry came in at $26 million. The CDBG-DR grant infrastructure projects were $14 million. Then we also had the James Garner Avenue Phase 1, the intersection over here at Acres, and James Garner came in at $1.9 million. For FYE 2017 through 2021, the street maintenance bond program, as you can see, for year one, FYE 17, all of those projects have been completed. For FYE 18, the first two have been completed. And then for the rural road rehabilitation, spring 2019 construction is planned. And then the urban road reconstruction is 25% complete. For FYE 2019, which would be year three, we have the first two under construction and then planning for spring 2019 construction on the rural road rehabilitation and the urban road reconstruction. A few of those pictures, we did have these in the other presentation, but just to review these, for the urban asphalt, we have Walnut Road. Urban reconstruction would be the Lahoma Avenue. Urban concrete is Thistlewood Drive. And then we had the rural road, which is Imhoff Road, 180th Avenue Southeast. 2012 Transportation Stormwater Bond Program. We have from 2014 down to 2022. 2014 through 2018, which would be up here on the 12th Avenue Southeast, South Highway 9 to Cedar Lane Road. We had that completed up through November of 2018. Then we have the Main Street Bridge. Construction began in August of 2018. Looking forward, 2019 through 2020. We have the 24th Avenue East, Lindsay Street to Robinson Street, the ODOT bid opening.
Just quick clarification. Is the asterisk meaning that that's how much the total cost was, but we didn't pay more than the bond budget portion?
That's correct.
Okay, just making sure, because that's a big old difference in those two.
So on the 24th Avenue East, Lindsay Street, Robinson Street, the ODOT bid opening is planned for spring of 19 with construction starting summer of 2019. The 36th Avenue Northwest to Tecumseh Road to Indian Hills, Phase 1 would begin construction in 2020. Phase 2 would be spring of 2021. Then we have Alameda, which would be a half mile east of 24th Avenue Southeast out to 48th Avenue, which would begin construction in spring of 2021.
Councilmember Castleberry.
Jane, just to kind of follow up on Councilperson Clark's comment. If you go back to like that very first one on Lindsay Street, if the actual cost is 42 and the bond is 32, the delta, how does that get paid?
Next slide.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
The 2012 Transportation and Stormwater Bond Program Budget Strategy. This slide was in the November presentation. So we've amended this because in November of 2018, Council transferred $2 million back to this. So now instead of, I left it down here where it was in November at the 5.8 million. We've brought that, the estimated deficit up to updated it to 3.8 million up there. And this is kind of dealing with the overrun on the Lindsay Street project. A list of our significant projects underway in FYE 19. We have the West Main Street Bridge Bond Project, the TMDL Compliance and Monitoring Plan, which is year 3. That's at 300,000. The Fire Administration Building renovation, the Land Use Plan update is still in process, as well as 24th Avenue Northwest and T Drive at 494,000.
Councilmember Clark.
What's left of the fire administration building renovation? I thought that was all done.
It's done. I believe there's some punch list items. They're occupying it, correct?
That's right. We're nearly done. We need a fence around the back.
Okay.
And then we've got a rather large tree we're hoping comes back out this spring. So if not, we'll have to address that too. And that's a pretty large expense. So just a few little things left.
Okay, thank you. So we have an estimated cost increase in funded FYE 20 projects. The playground component replacement, which would be citywide, is $5,000. Park shelter, restroom, and structure maintenance is $10,000.
What park?
I believe it's citywide.
Yeah, various parks as needed around the whole system.
Okay.
Just to replace and maintain things as they need it.
The 12th Avenue Southeast and Triad Village Drive signal, $10,000. North Flood and Venture Drive, new signal, $80,000. The street striping was at $50,000. We're increasing that an additional 50 for a total of $100,000.
Great.
The Asp Avenue
Venture Drive.
City Parking Lot Project is at $51,000. And then park site amenities and beautification is at $8,000.
Councilmember Clark.
So that's FYE 20, but with the 710 Asp Avenue City Parking Lot, didn't we just do that? Or is that a different lot?
This is real estate, closing costs, real estate related costs. This is related to the construction.
Okay, thank you.
We also have potential cost decreases for FYE 20. If the transportation bonds are approved by the voters, then the pay-go can be reduced by $1.4 million.
Vote for this and save
Councilmember Hickman.
Can we go back real quick on that prior slide? The traffic light at Venture Drive, why are we putting one in there? Because that's a route that I sometimes frequently commute when I'm making my way up to the courthouse in Oklahoma City. And from the on-queue to the on-ramp at I-35, there's only that one stop light. And it's at Franklin 24th, whatever, right for you, the on-ramp. So this is going to be just a little bit before that to the south, if I know where Venture Drive is, maybe the boat's left the dock and that's going to happen. I'm just kind of curious why we're putting one there. Is it really necessary?
The development that is occurring in that area require a traffic impact study be done a few years ago. And that study identified the need to signalize the intersection. We've had several serious crashes in that general area.
People do drive fast.
And most recently, and the reason why we're requesting $80,000 more for the local match of the project cost is originally we were looking at just putting a traffic signal at the intersection. The church that's on the east side of Flood is really concerned about traffic safety of the people that attend their church. And we are doing a little bit of roadway work with this project to close their southernmost driveway and line it up to Venture Drive so they can use the signal for access to Flood. So that's why we need a little more money for the construction.
So, and this isn't, and maybe just for the sake of people listening at home or that know more than me, the development you said is what triggered this need for this signal. Why isn't the developer paying this extra money?
They are.
They are.
There's a contribution. I mean, the project will be about a $500,000 project. There's a private development contribution that's going to help fund some of that.
Councilmember Bierman.
Is the church funding any of this?
No. They were there before we could extract the traffic impact fees. Their traffic and the safety situation is there, though.
Thank you. Slow down my commute time.
For the potential cost decreases in the FYE 20 projects, I'm sorry, I already went through that. So the transportation bonds, if approved, obviously the pay-go can be reduced. The stormwater bonds and utility approval would have a reduction of approximately $605,000. And then we also had a postponement of the 36th Avenue and Crail signal installation. That was postponed to 2022. It fit better with some federal funding, so that was postponed.
What do those first two bullets mean?
There are some funds in the capital plan right now for improvements related to what we hope will be funded by the transportation bonds. Design work, preliminary work for some of those federal matching projects. If the bonds are approved, then we won't have to pay for that out of the PAYGO funds.
Quarter an acre would be an example. We're spending money now.
It was the PAYGO that confused me.
Effectively, what this means is, thank you, Mayor. Effectively, what this means is if the bond issues are approved, council will have an additional $2 million available in Fund 50 for other projects.
For FY20.
If you direct that, that's what we expect you're going to direct. The dollars are in the project accounts to do that. So basically paying for those improvements with bond funds as opposed to capital funds.
I know that she's. Councilmember Scott.
So I'm wondering about that third bullet there, the 36th Avenue Northwest in Crail, because that's right there on my street there. Is it being postponed until the 2020-2021 because of the widening, or I guess it wouldn't affect it, right?
No, it's as we map out when we think we can get the federal funds, given other priorities for the city. Originally, we thought we would get the federal funds this coming year. That's not going to be the case. It'll be a couple of years later, so there's no need to lock our contribution in FYE 20.
Okay, and follow up to that.
Yes.
Is it necessary to put a light there?
Yes, ma'am. Again, TIA, traffic impact assessment from the development that's actually under construction right now.
I understand. My husband and I were in a hit and run on 36 one time. Some car ran out in front of us. No lights or anything. So it's just another light to hit on our way down.
Yes, Councilmember Bierman.
More lights, more
So-
congestion.
There's a theme here.
Not only more lights, more congestion, more lights, more cost to the city. I had a conversation with Angelo about this not long ago, and it was surprising to me to learn that we should have a signal tech for every 25 traffic lights. We have 160 something traffic lights, Angelo.
That would be
And how many signal techs do we have?
6 signal techs.
4. So for every traffic light we put in, we compound that problem. We need signal techs to maintain these traffic lights. It's a continual cost to us for every signal we put in. And some of that, roundabouts, but some of that is also a function of the fact that we do not, as a city, have any limitations on how many curb cuts per quarter mile, half mile, either one.
Well, someone's been doing their homework. Look at you.
That municipalities have started to crack down on that because the more curb cuts you have, the more need for traffic management, the more cost to a city. So that might be something for us to consider in the future is ordinance limitations on how many curb cuts we allow every quarter or half mile, because that does impact our city budget. We are down 2 signal techs, and now we're looking at adding 4.
I think it's a great idea. Talk to the merchants on Lindsay and let's see.
Well,
Let's see where we go. It's a great idea. I would
curb cuts is why the median was needed,
absolutely.
and they're upset about that too. So I mean, you
I-
want your
They
curb
want to go
cuts,
to
you
curb
want your
cuts.
median. What do you want?
I totally get it. I'm agreeing. I think it would be great. I'm just saying there are issues with it. I do want to follow up on that. That's a great point. The traffic management, the money we're putting in to go for the funding for the traffic management facility. I mean, won't that help with some of it in terms of signalizing, coordinating signals and some of the other stuff? Could it help that we wouldn't have to have quite so many lights or not?
No, I don't. It will make the operation
We'll
of the
need people to
signals
run
more
that.
efficient. But it will not reduce the need for traffic signals unless we change how we allow development to occur. It's like the council member was saying. We have about 8 intersections in that mile between Rock Creek Road and Tecumseh Road. Most cities would allow 4, and only 2 would be signalized.
Okay. And
I end up with probably 4 traffic signals in the near future on this corridor.
what about personnel when we get the new?
If I may, Mayor, that's really for another day, but we've been requesting additional traffic signal technicians for 5 or 6 years going, and again, the general fund just hasn't been able to support that. So we requested again in FY 20. You'll see that in the general fund discussion. I know there's many departments that have requested staff.
Okay, I don't remember us discussing it before, but
Generally done by the city manager.
I'm sorry, Jane. Go.
You're fine.
Didn't mean to derail, just wanted to.
You're fine. Discussion is good. Okay. Moving forward, for the proposed 2019 transportation bond program, this will be the federally funded projects. You'll see that we have construction year at 2020. There's no federal share shown over there. This is on here just to note that the work is ongoing. So we're moving forward with gaining readiness points for the matching funds for the Federal Highway Administration. So we'll be looking at the engineering design, right-of-way acquisition, relocation of utilities. And so that will be ongoing through this process. As you'll see on the next slide, it kind of reiterates that the project readiness is critical in the scoring of a project. So we want to make sure that the funding of pre-construction activities, again, as I outlined, the engineering design, right-of-way acquisition, and utility relocations is critical for those projects in FFY 2019 and beyond.
Councilmember Hickman.
And Sean, if I remember our conversations from the transportation bond, how we tried to structure that, aren't we thinking that in FY 2023, when we pick up on our list under the bond of having federal shares, that we'll have hopefully got all of our federal shares for the existing ones in the pipeline. And so that hopefully will be a smooth transition of we've got all the other already approved stuff done with federal match, and then we'll be working on the local projects with the bond money, and then go right into FY 23 with federal money on the new bond if it passes.
That's one of the advantages of council opting to pay for those 5 projects with just bond funds. It gives us time to sort of catch on that federal cycle. The thing I'll mention is that we're still in that cycle trying to fund James Garner Phase 2 and 36th Avenue and
Alameda.
Robinson I-35 and all that. So the first window of opening beyond the current projects for the next bond program, if it's approved, is 2023. So we're still working on all these other active projects. Jane will speak to a couple of them here in a moment, and each of them is dependent on that federal cycle. 36th Avenue is our top priority right now.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that because I've had some people ask me about that relative to the current transportation bond and the ones that aren't done yet, and I've tried to explain about the federal deal and how we structured this bond. Hopefully they sync together. So thank you.
And this, again, Jane, appreciate Jane put this up there, but this is our goal as a city, and it's getting harder every year, is to meet that maximum available dollars. I think the 11.2 is probably stretching the limits of what any single city in the metropolitan area can get in any year. In fact, we're waiting for this year's ranking and rating numbers this week to see how we did in FY 20. So we're projecting out the maximum that we can possibly get, which means that, as Jane said, all those readiness activities, all these, when we come to you with an engineering contract or a right-of-way agreement or, God forbid, an eminent domain filing, we're doing that because we're trying to meet this cycle to get those funds returned to normal.
The 2019 proposed stormwater bond programs, we for design and construction of new, expanded, or improved assets. There's 33 of 60 projects are identified in the stormwater master plan coming up, and this recommendation is for $60 million general obligation bond package based on an ad valorem tax, $3.40 per month for a $100,000 market value home. There's 2 slides here for stormwater projects, the list, and just to highlight a couple, the first one would be the Bishop Creek, which is Sinclair Drive in Beaumont, south of Boyd. Estimated cost is $2.7 million. Moving down, we have Merkle Creek at Maine, and between Merkle and Hell-Muldrow coming in at 12.1. A couple of these, Imhoff, well, Andrews Park coming in at 7 million. And the next one, we have Woodcrest Creek north of Sequoia Trail between Willow Creek and Winding Creek Circle, $1 million. And we have Imhoff Creek south of Imhoff Road between Southbury and Walnut, $10 million. The Fund 50 capital upcoming significant projects would be the generator for Building A, the security system replacement and expansion, which would be year 3 of 4, the police range berm renovation design, the ASP parking lot would be year 3 of 3, 36th Avenue Southeast, again, Cedar Lane to Highway 9, which would be the right-of-way and utilities, the Flood Avenue multimodal path construction, Imhoff and Constitution design and utilities, Porter and Acres, the intersection right over here, the I-35 corridor study, we have 24th Avenue East Bond Project, as well as 36th Avenue Northwest Bond Project, the I-35 and Robinson Street West Side project, as well as the municipal complex renovation and expansion.
Questions?
I guess I'll ask that louder. So since the senior center won't go in the library, those funds, do they just not get used, or can we put that all towards the other stuff?
Municipal complex.
Working with bond counsel, we hope to be able to use the full authorization of 11.25 million. If funding has been identified for a senior center from another source, then we believe that bond counsel and ultimately the attorney general will say that we could use the full 11.25 million.
Thank you.
Wait and see.
When would we need to have that identified?
Before we issue the bonds.
And what's our estimate for that?
We're trying to close by the end of this fiscal year.
No pressure. Does everyone hear that?
Identify the funding sources and send it by June.
Now remember, worst case, if we were not able to have a definitive answer on funding for a senior center by the time we close this issue, we would just have to cut back the amount of this issue, keep the remaining authorization of, and let's say that I believe it was $1.3 million that was authorized for the senior center. So we could sell about $10 million worth of bonds. We'd still have the remaining 1.3 million of authorization. And at the point that we have a firm funding source for the senior center, then we could do another issue for the 1.3
So it's
million.
not going to hold everybody back from going ahead and getting started with the rest of
There's
the.
some downsides to that. Obviously,
Issuance costs.
issuance costs. Yeah, there's economies of scale of issuing bonds. So yeah, we would hope to issue them all at one time.
Well, hopefully we'll have those issues settled and we'll have the money and we'll have a place and it won't be an issue.
Jesus.
Talking to you over here.
So we have several of the recurring sidewalk projects in FYE 20. The schools and arterials comes in at 80,000. The accessibility project is another 30. The 50/50 repair for the city sidewalk project is 50,000, as well as the downtown area sidewalk project and the horizontal saw cut program. And then we also have sidewalks and trails coming in at the total coming in at 380,000. For our Fund 50 capital upcoming recurring projects, the whole list here, we have the capital outlay, street maintenance, maintenance of existing facilities, stormwater drainage maintenance, personnel, the ODOT audit adjustments, the ADA sidewalk compliance and repair, bridge maintenance, driveway repairs, street striping, which I mentioned a moment ago has come up to 100,000, the traffic calming, greenbelt acquisition, the neighborhood, community and neighborhood improvements, as well as the building maintenance, mechanical, electrical.
Councilmember Clark.
I'll throw out there that the traffic calming was cut last year, but you all worked with me to help get that one project done, which was that 30,000? 20. So that is a great example of that would only be like a couple traffic calming projects if we kept that in there. I'd be curious if have there been any more viable requests where this would be something we need to continue to fund?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Hittman and then Castleberry.
I thought in the past we used to have a line item for alley repair, alley improvements. And then at some point in time, maybe a few years ago, it got cut. And I don't see it being added back. Is that possible?
With your direction, happy to do that. It has been cut for a few years, and so we're happy
I'd like for us to add some, I don't know what it used to be. I want to say, I thought it was like 100,000, but maybe it was.
100,000 was elected. That's about the length of a block or block and a half.
Because we have a lot of alleys, whether we're talking about, in the downtown area or in the neighborhoods. I know that we, in theory, have the TIF for Center City. So we maybe don't necessarily want to focus on those areas, but I know like in the Miller Historic District, we've had some issues with some of the alleys there with some of the development, but also in the downtown area, and Campus Corner area, there are alleys, the alley behind Asp Street between Asp and DeBar, I believe, or not DeBar, Dean's Row, could use some work, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I'd like to see us add that back in so we have the ability to have funding available to start doing some repair work in our alleys.
Especially the ones that aren't paved.
Yeah.
Check the number. I think it may have gotten rolled into the street maintenance category, so we'll double check on it, make sure it's in there. That's okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Councilmember Castleberry.
On the Greenbelt acquisition, how much do we have in that fund right now? We have a couple $1 million in there already?
No,
We spent it?
they take money out of it and just leave a certain amount.
We bought property with it, didn't we?
We have
Around the
brought,
roundabout.
we've
Yeah.
brought property and we've done conservation easements with it. But it's been a long time since we've done a conservation easement.
I
We've
think
matched
Anthony's
federal money.
He's efforting.
Buy property.
The wheel on the computer is spinning.
Isn't that the money that we used when we bought out the houses that were in the flood areas?
Done it twice, Marathon, in those kinds of cases.
Yeah, it's probably not as much as we should have in
It's
there.
like 204,000 as of the end of last fiscal year.
I'm sorry.
204,000 as of the end of last fiscal year.
I want to find a way to put more money into the ADA sidewalk compliance and repair. I know we've got the ADA program coming on, but I think if we're going to do the citywide assessment, we need to start budgeting for it because it's going to be a big number. And so that's not enough.
I agree with that. Is the money anywhere else? Is it embedded anywhere else?
It is not, Mayor, we're kind of waiting, but this would be the first year that you'll have a full-time ADA technician working. I have to go back to the study where the adopted plan, but I think the projection was about 5 times this amount is what we really need to be doing.
Ideally, I'd like to start building that up and rolling it over and building that fund up. I know there's a timing difference there, but we need to commit to this. I mean, if we're going to.
So maybe like 250 or something like that.
Happy to bring that.
I don't want
back.
to spend 250 this year.
Sure.
But I think,
We may not.
because I don't think we'll have the plan in place yet that we know where to spend 250.
Right.
But we know we're going to. And so I think it'd be nice if we start annually budgeting that to kind of build that fund up so that we do get the compliance. We've got some funds ready to go as opposed to waiting. Well, we know what we're going to do. We just haven't funded it yet. So
Yep, that was one of my points. Good one. Councilmember Hickman.
I agree with you, Mayor. I guess I would just put out there for everybody to chew on, and we have some time to think about it, like the April election. But if the bonds pass in April and that $2 million of pay-go money is freed up,
When they pass, Councilmember Hickman, when they pass.
Think
optimistic. I would propose we put 500,000 in the ADA file and we put 500,000 in the Greenbelt file, and then hold the other $1 million to discuss later what we want to do. I would like for the city to develop a more aggressive plan on the Greenbelt acquisition part of it, to look at acquiring vacant parcels currently along our urban creeks. Like we've had that one issue on 36th Street on Brookhaven Creek. But there may be parcels like that the Greenbelt Commission, if we started funding that, could start looking at and working with the stormwater folks department as well, because there are parcels that are identified to be acquired, I believe, in that stormwater master plan, to start maybe making doing some of those acquisitions if we put some money in there. And then maybe we can also then avoid the case like we had on 36th Street where it was backing up to a creek and we had concerns about that. So put that out there really to think about. I know we have to get the bonds passed, but that would be a source of some money to bolster those budgets.
But Sean, is some of this savings projected into the previous slide, the 3.8 million we're short? With that $2 million savings, or could we use it towards that?
I think Jane's going to get to that here in a moment, but you'll see the balance. But I would just mention, to Governor Hickman's point, there's also some great federal grants, FEMA grants for buyouts of repetitive flooding properties.
Require matching
They
money
require
there.
a match.
Yeah.
So if you were to do something like that, it would give us an opportunity we haven't ever had
Yeah.
before.
What's the match? Is it 50/50 or?
Gary, do you remember last time we talked?
I think it was an 80/20. So
80/20, that's what I remember
We
too.
pay
80/20.
20 or do we get the 80?
Oh, yeah.
Bingo.
We could get into that.
500,000 turns into
Road projects
what,
are
4 million?
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you go to math school or law school? You're on fire tonight.
I slept at the Holiday Inn last night.
Was that commercial?
Holiday Inn
Holiday Inn
Express.
Express.
That'd be awarded.
Okay,
Okay,
That's good.
moving forward.
jump back in there, Jake.
Moving on.
Take over.
Floor is yours.
Mike night. City Hall.
So at the November meeting, we did have discussion about the council project requests. So I included those in here and I wanted to outline them briefly. So we had a request for monies directed at the Historic Museum building repairs. That will be funded out of paid for out of Fund 23. The Gray Street parking lot is included. That was one of the items that one of the council members mentioned. The Legacy Park parking area. And it says project currently under design, so it's not obviously working right now, but we're looking at the designing of the project, the cost, and so on and so forth. So that's been included here. The sidewalk for
That's TIF money.
That's TIF funds. though.
TIF, right. The sidewalk project for Brooks and Classen. Again, the project would be considered currently under design and looking at getting that installed.
Just,
Councilmember Holman.
just to be clear, that is the sidewalks and the, crossing the railroad crossing there,
Going to class.
all the way, okay.
But that's also
On the north
along
side.
Classen, right?
That's
Another
different one?
project, that's the second project. This one would get us on Brooks to class.
Yeah. And how far west would this one go? Just to the tracks and then across them? Because there's not,
Currently, the new housing that was put in there, the university housing was built there. It goes all the way to the railroad, right away on the west side. This would be able to allow us to continue all the way to class. And from that point, so we'd have one continuous sidewalk on the north side. And there's already project funding for that project from the previous year. We were looking on some other sidewalks in the area, and we can utilize those funds to complete that sidewalk.
so this would complete the sidewalk from Jenkins all the way to.
Correct.
Okay. And just as a related thing to this project, then, when we approved the Callaway House to be built there on Brooks, part of their PUD, as I recall, was that there's the bridge right there. So the sidewalk is missing
That
there.
is
They haven't done that yet?
That is
Or they
constructed
have?
and in place, yes, sir.
Okay, on the north side of it.
At the cost of the
They have
development. So that, they've gone all the way to the railroad tracks because that's the extent of their
And
property.
they've done the
So
new
they go
bridge
from
over.
Trout all the way over to the railroad, to the right of way, the railroad.
Okay.
So that portion is in place. So there's the sidewalk continuum. So all we need to do is continue it back to the east.
Perfect. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Councilmember Hickman.
I guess, Sean, my question I'm concerned about is what's the status of the projects that we funded, I think, 2 years ago, both the Classen sidewalk project and the Flood Avenue project from downtown up to Acres, and the Classen one, I think, going on down to Brooks or to Lindsay, I can't remember.
Those were submitted for federal funds in this application cycle through ACOG. And again, as Mr. O'Leary indicated, we'll find out how they fare mid-March. We requested the federal funding for federal fiscal year 2020.
Okay, and if we don't get those funds, how much would it cost for us to pay for it local? About?
They're about $200,000-$300,000 projects each, and we're requesting 80% in federal funds, so a couple $100,000.
If we don't get the federal funds, I'd like for us to figure out a way to go ahead and fund those and just get them done. There are important sidewalks on major thoroughfares, and
I agree.
Flood to Acres is, there is a safety issue as well, because there are areas right there where there aren't sidewalks, and basically you can't get from downtown to Acres Street to get to our new central library. And Classen's a heavily traveled road with a lot of students as well, going from Boyd on down to, I can't remember if that was going to Brooks or going all the way to Lindsay, but it needs sidewalks. Okay.
I think it's supposed to go all the way to.
There'll be something we'll be able to know here mid-March, and we'll bring it back to your next budget discussion.
I think didn't we approve that in our budget 2 years ago?
Match,
Yeah.
approve the grant application.
It was supposed to go all the way to 12th or where Classen and 12th meet, isn't it? Like past the OU Motel and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
there are like
It's
two
not
or
like
three
we have enough
gaps
money to
on
do
Classen.
everything.
The first one is from the 12th Avenue Classen connection back north.
For a few $1,000, we can get it done.
I just want to say, I agree. I want all that stuff done, but I really don't feel comfortable with us just kind of blowing off 80% federal money. It's not like, I mean, we want to get the most out of all the different areas in town that need to have things done. And so, I mean, I'd at least like us to give it the best shot that we can give to get that money.
Well, yeah.
We are.
If we're only talking about 1 year funding cycle, that's a $200,000.
We've been waiting 2 years from when we approved it, though.
So we approved it too early. That's, I mean, I didn't mean anything.
I'm just expressing my concerns about it.
So the last item that we had on the list here for council project request was the animal welfare HVAC, and that's also included, you'll see coming up in another slide here. Funding requested for the IT department is the central file system hardware and replacement at $400,000. Funding for FYE 20 for parks, we have the Little Axe Sports Complex improvements. 12th Avenue Recreation Center outdoor courts renovation at $120,000. I'm sorry, the Little Axe is at $150,000. We have 3 recreation centers, which would be the signage and interior upgrades at $60,000, year 1 of 3.
Councilmember Clark.
I have 2 questions on this. The first one with the 12th Avenue Rec Center outdoor courts renovation, what are we renovating those to? It will be tennis because.
Pickleball courts.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I cannot. Will they all be pickleball?
No, 2 of them.
2 of them? And how many are there?
2 of the 4 will be 8 pickleball courts.
Do the pickleball people know this yet?
8
Can I share
pickleball
this
courts.
with them? Oh, they already know? Okay. Pickleball Day, 12th Avenue Rec Center. Come join us March 9th, 4 to 6.
Okay, but
Wait, second question. Recreation centers, I'm guessing that's Irving, Whittier, and 12th Avenue?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
So where are we at with the conversation of turning over
Thinking too.
the rec centers of Irving and Whittier to Norman Public Schools? Or reevaluating that relationship?
We haven't had that conversation.
I guess the long story short is when we last investigated that, our bond counsel said we can't give them away. We have to sell them for fair market value, and the school is not in a position to pay the fair market value price.
Why is that the ruling? Like,
Because they were funded with general obligation.
thank you. That's what I'm
Back
missing.
when.
Okay, so. Okay, thank you.
could I, Councilmember Hickman?
On a semi-unrelated topic, but relating to the schools also, I've had some requests from the school people about can we deed over the gym in Norman North, Norman High, that's in the middle of their building?
Oh, man.
No, the
Same issue.
same issue applies.
Can we come up with what the fair market, to me, the fair market value of that, sort of like what OU did with us on the piece of land in the middle of the runway, which is basically zero, which is it's in the middle of their facility, so what are we going to do with it? Can we at least explore if there's some way to say the fair market value is $1, and just, because we're not going to do anything with it, and at least that way they can't do improvements to it while we own it. And I understand their frustration, and there seems to be a way out of that pickle if we could just, think outside the box maybe.
I would have a follow-up to that, though.
Councilmember Holman.
I know there used to be like Taekwondo or something, but there are any groups that use that gym because it's owned by the city and not the schools?
No, we used to hold classes in there, and then the last high school renovation project
Enclosed it.
totally enclosed it, and so it became a security issue for the school. So we've relocated those classes over to 12th Avenue.
Okay.
And the school is basically doing any and all maintenance to the gym already. We're not out any cost for that, but
So we don't utilize, we don't have any programs, we don't have any city programs there.
Correct.
So
Yeah, let's
it's not.
definitely look at that one.
Yeah. What else are we doing at Little Axe?
Oh, that's additional drainage and field work. It's more of the same, basically continuing the work
That we've already been doing. Okay.
Not moving a 20-acre farm.
For the public works.
Got 10 minutes.
I'm gonna have to hustle through this. I've got quite a few slides left. I'll go as fast as I can. So we've got, for Public Works, we've got the list of projects proposed. We have the snow and ice control, Lindsay Yard improvements, the CNG facility, fleet exhaust, as well as the bay lighting. We have the 12th Avenue Southeast and Alameda Street intersection study, fleet break room renovations. We have the Boyd and Classen, as well as the Alameda Crawford and Apache intersection studies. The West Gray Street parking lot is listed on here. We have the I-35 corridor study, phase 2. Then I also have the transportation bond proposal as well as the stormwater bond proposal on here. And of course, those are looking forward to the April vote. For fire, we have the new projects proposed at fire stations 1, 2, and 4. Overhead door replacement at $34,000. Fire stations 4 and 2, we have interior remodels that they're requesting. And then we also have fire station 10, which is the east side, and that is at 5.1. However, I will say that that is including the architectural fees, design, structure, and furnishing, but it does not include the employees and apparatus that would supply the station there.
Is this the one that's supposed to be on on Highway 9?
Or in Destin Landing? Or is it?
No, this is the one that
between Highway 9 and Cedar Lane location.
So we don't have to buy land for it, right?
That's what we're being told, yes.
So this is not the one that would replace the Little Axe.
No, this is not the relocation. So the relocate of Station 5 is a PSST project. It's currently scheduled in the mid-2020s. So
okay, that's what I.
Different project.
Yeah, I thought that we were getting close to that.
Correct.
Okay.
The request for police for FYE 20, we have the animal welfare, 3 requests, the HVAC at $250,000, the incinerator repair, 12.5, facility improvements at $40,000, and then for the SIS building, which is the Special Investigation Section building, they're looking at $5,000 for window repair. Looking at our upcoming challenges, of course, we have the April Vision for Norman vote, the I-35 corridor study, phase 2. We talked about the senior center a moment ago, the municipal complex renovations, the Griffin land acquisition, the indoor aquatic center multi-sport facility, the website update during the ERP project, the regional transit authority, new traffic signals on state highways, and city arterials. We're looking at fleet replacement as well as fire station 10.
Can I make one comment real quick?
Councilmember Clark.
With the municipal complex renovations, I sent an email this weekend about making sure that as we plan these renovations, that we're doing it in the most sustainable way possible, which I think could make it more expensive. But we need to be setting an example as we do these remodels, which will save us money in the long run. But I just wanted to make sure everyone's paying attention
Solar
to that.
panel grants.
I'll forward you the email I got back.
Moving forward, looking at the city vehicle replacement backlog, you noticed on the upcoming challenges, we did note fleet replacement. The 2013 fleet study recommended that we would be utilizing approximately 6.4 million average on our annual fleet, and we are still behind that suggested amount. So I summarized the
Councilmember Scott.
I don't see CART anywhere on the upcoming challenges, and I would say that's a challenge. Oh, okay. But okay.
Capital.
It would be in the capital challenges then?
This is the capital challenge.
This is the capital
general fund. Okay, sorry.
Although there might be some capital.
Eventually, if we
I
want
would
to.
at
some point.
Yeah, we want replacement of buses at some point in the future.
So on the next slide, I just summarized the requests, so we would have it here on this one slide. Just give an overview of what everyone had requested. And then the project request, the dollar value summary for FYE 20. Of course, I noted on your city council requests, those are still in design phase. We're not exactly sure where those might fall. Fire came in at 5.2 million. Parks was 330,000. IT at 400,000. Police was 307,000. Public Works came in at 2.1 million. So the total requested dollars for projects came to 8.4 million. Our ending fund balance, it shows to be $1,035,632. So our available funding for new projects is showing to be 2.1. However, I want to qualify a few things on that.
Negative, right? Negative.
Negative.
That'd
Sorry.
be not available for new projects.
Right. Well, right. It would be a negative amount. Right.
We
Right.
need
Yeah.
2 million before we get to
But-
the 8 million.
Yeah.
No. Sorry. I'm trying to rush this along. I know we've only got a few minutes here. But several factors that can impact this deficit that we have here, of course, if we get the transportation bond, or when we get the transportation bond approved, the monies can be transferred in. This does include, again, going back to that Lindsay Street overrun, which we can be, over the next few years, we'll be paying back some of those monies. So that will change as well. The possibly ending the TIF will improve the fund balance. And then also, we have to remember that not all of these projects will be completed in FYE 19. So we'll have these continuing on in additional years, that all of these monies won't have to come out at once. So I close with that, and I open it to questions and comments for staff.
Councilmember Castleberry.
So how would ending the TIF affect the capital fund? Would it just be the 0.7?
Capital sales tax is a portion as well.
So
So when we say $4 million is available, about 700,000 of that is capital.
You're not talking about any current funds that are in there. You're talking about funds going forward.
Going forward, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So it'd be about $700,000
Roughly.
of those, of the total amount that's going to come back to the general fund. Okay, Councilmember Hickman.
Yeah, so just to clarify on that point, currently, the budget that you're preparing and that you presented to us for capital budget is not based on the TIF ending by June 30th.
That's correct.
And why is that?
But because there has been no formally adopted policy to end the apportionment.
By city council, you mean?
That's correct. I mean, until we've actually adopted something that you've given a formal direction, that's your policy, that ordinance is in place right now. So.
And would that be the same for the general fund? I assume that you're working on?
Yes.
So those, okay.
Councilmember Castleberry.
Okay, so explain to me the very first part where you said the sales tax is going to grow at 4%. Hasn't for the past 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I mean, I'm thinking about investing in the stock market. And I'm just trying to figure out what this great investment, how it's going to go.
Stay positive.
Year to date, we're nowhere close to that. We're 3%.
Yeah, we're about 3%.
But going from 3 to 4% is a
Is it
33% increase.
Yes.
Okay,
Now,
it's not a 1% increase.
if council is uncomfortable with that, we can certainly change that assumption. It's just that, it's an assumption. But it does sort of start to account for less of a proportionment to the TIF fund. And it does account for, in working with our economists from OCU, their projection is about 4%. So.
Why we got that extra help.
And if we don't get the 4%, then this is not.
Then there'd be less available for everything in here. Yes,
the budget would be off.
All right, I'm going to adjourn the meeting so that we can move into the big room.
My next question is.
There, right, I love that. Like,
3%, what's
sorry.
Yeah.